No, sir. Founded in 1985 for the prevention of cruelty to young men.
That's right.
Circumcision.
Ugh.
I know.
Just the thought of it.
How'd this happen?
Why did I begin? Is that what you're asking? As a nursing student, I witnessed the circumcision and saw a baby strapped to a plastic board and without an anesthetic have part of his penis cut off. And the scream was unlike any scream I've ever heard come out of the mouth of a human, number one, but certainly out of the mouth of a baby. My own sons were circumcised at 10, 17, and 20 years earlier, and I'd been told by the doctor that it didn't hurt, it only took a second, and it would prevent all these illnesses. As I witnessed this baby being tortured and mutilated before my eyes, the doctor looked at me, I started to cry, and the doctor looked at me and said there's no medical reason for doing that. So that began my research, and that was 28 and a half years ago. And I've been talking about one thing ever since then. Again, so that children don't have to experience this and mothers don't have to feel the way I do.
So it's done for religious reasons, and then there's this myth that it's done for medical reasons.
Well, the origins of circumcision are lost in antiquity, of course, but it's been done as a religious ritual or as a puberty rite. But more recently, starting in the mid-1800s, circumcision was adopted into the medical community in an effort to prevent masturbation because they believe masturbation caused disease. And so most people don't understand that or know that. And the reason they did this, and they did it to both boys and girls, with the idea of if they could cut off the best part, that children would be less apt to masturbate and then they wouldn't get sick.
Thank you.
It never worked.
The best part.
The best part, yeah. It is the best part. They're about I've just learned this because I've been saying 20,000 nerve endings encircle the opening of the foreskin. I've just learned from an anatomist in New Zealand that it's more like 70,000. Highly specialized erogenous nerve endings like in the fingertips. There's no part of the male body that's more sensitive than the opening of the foreskin.
I feel cheated.
Well,
I know, me too.
Of course you are. You have a scar instead of the normal part of your body.
Last night I was at dinner with my friend Raul and some of his friends, and there was five of us at the dinner table, and I realized I was the only one without a foreskin.
Sad, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, poor you. Anyway, Michelle Meow here.
You are such a bitch.
Now,
Who cares about you? We're talking about, guys, males, everyone else, not David Williams. But I just wanted to know, I mean, we're now in the year 2007. For as far as, medicinal technology has advanced, why are we still stuck in that age or that myth of it, being good for the health of a young man or to grow up circumcised?
It's a wonderful question. Hygiene was probably the second excuse for circumcision because initially it was to prevent masturbation, and then the germ theory was put forth. So we understood then that what really caused disease were germs, but it wasn't a huge leap from bacteria and germs to hygiene. So hygiene became the next excuse. So we've used it all ever since. So from the mid-1800s onward, we've used this excuse. Now, in terms of is it hard to clean your foreskin? It's retract, rinse, and replace. It takes less time than it does to brush your teeth. If it takes any longer, it's usually accompanied with a smile.
So circumcision peaked in this country in like the
probably
50s?
Probably 50s and 60s, yeah, but really after World War II, when birth had become pathologized, doctors wanted to get women into the hospitals. Until then, midwives were delivering babies, and then doctors took over the medical profession and kind of wiped women out of being midwives. And babies were born in the hospital, and after World War II, not only were all these women in the hospital, the babies were too, along with their penises and foreskins, and third-party payers, insurance companies began paying for it then, and so it was just done automatically.
Marilyn, Cindy Hagley here, are there any countries where circumcision is not the norm?
Actually, the question is backwards, because who does circumcisions? The Jews, the Muslims, and the North Americans. It's done now in South Korea because we were there. But for the most part, it's not. Probably 80 to 85% of the men in the world are intact.
Babies now, today, what's the percentage that are being circumcised?
About 57% nationally, but although in the western states we're down to 25%, in California it's probably less than 20%. So the West has been won.
I'm speaking for lesbians, I think, and not for straight women or hetero women, and you can call in and let me know otherwise, but I say whack it off. I mean, as far as
but
like a lesbian.
the whole thing whacked off, not just the foreskin, right?
Thank you.
Well, no, but I mean, just thinking about it as a lesbian, it's like, I don't know, it would just appear cleaner, smoother.
What's the most beautiful body of all? What's the most beautiful male body that we think about? Is it not the statue of David?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there you have it, and you see that David has a foreskin. If you look at classical art, the only place that you see the glands of the penis is in erotic art or in American art. You don't see that, but you see a normal penis. You see the whole body. Just as the labia cover and protect the vaginal wall, the foreskin covers the urinary meatus, keeping the urinary tract sterile, keeping the head of the penis soft, moist mucous membrane. It's there for a reason. And an important reason is also the skin that's necessary for a full erection. So one of the major complaints of circumcised men is tight erections, painful erections, tearing at the scar site, curvature because there's so much skin taken off one side and not the other. Most importantly, this is a primal wound done to a baby. The scream of the baby is amazing. I mean, just nothing that you'd ever forget.
To put another $50 in the pockets of the doctors.
Well, it's more than 50. It can go up to $1,000, but yeah, but it's usually just $200 to $500 is more than normal.
Is there a difference in feeling? Have you conducted a survey of uncircumcised and circumcised to a woman?
Intact. We say intact because we can change culture and cultural practices if we can change the language.
Sure.
You don't call me unclitoridectomized, right? There is a difference. We did a study because Masters and Johnson about 50 years ago said there was no difference between a circumcised penis and an intact penis. And since that time, researcher and pathologist Dr. John Taylor did a study trying to save his grandsons and showing that there are all of these specialized nerve endings that encircle the opening of the foreskin in a little ridge band. And how important they are structurally. So we then, I figured, well, if you cut that much tissue off, how could you not have less sensation? So we did the study, and of course it showed that when you cut off normal sexually functioning tissue, you have less, it disturbs normal sexual functioning, and you have ablated the most sensitive part of the penis.
I'm just having a feeling here that Harrison, who's in our Hollywood studio, probably has an opinion about this.
You think?
How's it going, Harrison?
Oh, it's going great. I'm just sitting here with my legs crossed, of course. I mean, really, I've known about the many thousands of happy little ganglia in the tissues there that I don't simply have. And one of the things that's fascinating to me is if we go back to sort of why this happened, well before Marilyn talks absolutely accurately about people like John Harvey Kellogg, the inventor of the bran flake cornflake. His idea was that endless pooping got rid of demons, and from that we've lost our foreskin. See the connection? And, of course, when he died, they found many dildi hidden in his closets. So, as always, as Billy Shakespeare said, methinks the lady doth protest too much. My favorite part, though, if we go really way back to the Egyptians, Pharaoh gave his foreskin to the sun god Ra. The ultimate sacrifice a man can give is the most important part of his body, asked Michelle. Half of his penis, and to give it up to the gods. And so the Jews, the slaves, then gave their foreskins to Pharaoh, which showed their allegiance, their loyalty. And that's, as always, most every ritual comes out of some historical fact. Then we mythologize it, add a little ooga booga and sprinkle, and John Harvey Kellogg, and here we are today.
But that's great for thousands and thousands of years ago. But, Marilyn, we've got much more education now. So what's the swing of the movement now?
Well, when I started, the circumcision rate was somewhere between 80 and 85%. Now we're down to 57%, I said, in the West. We're down to less than 18% or less than 20%.
One of the things, and not to take anything away from the work that you've done and that I've been a fan of for years, but one of the things that's happened is we've had people from other countries in the last few years who have assimilated into our country, coming from countries where they just don't do it.
That's right.
And it's, there's always been this thing, and I remember one of the excuses I got from my parents was, well, we didn't want you to look different from the other boys in school.
Exactly. Remember I said that we've always used the excuses for circumcision have always been consistent with the dreaded disease of the time. So it was hygiene. After masturbation, it was hygiene, and then penile cancer, which is we have a low rate, the same as in the Scandinavian countries. And then it was cervical cancer. Then it was sexually transmitted diseases. Now, I don't know where you were during the sexual revolution, but it didn't work.
Exactly.
And then in the 70s, when people began to challenge medical practices, for example, routine tonsillectomies, radical mastectomies, episiotomies, and circumcision, the next excuse was, well, you don't want them to look different in the locker room, do you?
Yeah, because everyone's gay, right? They're all looking. I mean, they're not gay. There's no such thing. I mean, what do I mean?
But that excuse was never used when circumcision started. It was only the emotional excuse to perpetuate this billion-dollar-a-year industry.
Marilyn, do you have a website?
I do, www.nocirc.org.
So if you know of somebody who's about to have a baby, it could possibly be a son, there's a 50-50 chance you're going to want to talk to them about not cutting off the end of their penis.
It's his choice, his body and his choice, and that's the bottom line to this issue. We don't have a right to cut off normal parts of somebody else's body.
Stay with us. More on Shake Radio after this.
I'm still sitting here with my legs crossed, and one of the things, David, you said it so well, is not only is it just outright savagery, but here's one of the things that Michelle, as you can see the little hairs in the back of her nape of her neck, see them rising right now? It is women who are the ones pushing the circumcision. Men are so not pushing it. They frankly don't care. They really just don't. But women have been the ones hacking it off and buying into all the crap. Mothers look at that and they see, and they want to behead the damn thing, and they do.
Harrison, when I talked to my parents about this several years ago, my dad said he thought that he and my mother had an understanding about it, and then in the hospital, my mom just went and did it, and my dad was sort of taken back by it.
As with my son.
Yeah.
It just happened when I was away.
They see it as, I suppose to some it is unaesthetic in some way, and whatever. So it's really aesthetics. And the odd part, Marilyn hit it a little bit, is when the insurance company started paying for it, it became a commodified thing. It's like if suddenly they paid for nose jobs, everyone would run out and get one because the doctors can make money doing this. So it became a commercial venture.
Harrison, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm kind of, foreskinned out. Would you have
well, that
something
would make
else?
sense. Well, then let's talk about infibulation,
All right.
which is female circumcision, which in Africa is still huge. And what they do is they use broken glass from bottles and such to
Old
do
rusty razor blades.
Yeah, and
they
they shave off all the flaps, if you will. And it's for the exact same argument, pure aesthetics, and it is true butchery for women.
I'm not for, male, mutilation. I'm not for it, but it just
M&M,
definitely
as we call
this past 5 minutes just sounds like all three of you guys are whining about, not having that extra sexual
thank
sensation.
you. We are.
Well,
we
how
are
would you
whining
like it if
about
you had a mastectomy in the crib?
Well, you're still able to function. Just let
Barely.
it go. You've already been cut off. Oh, well.
Yeah, you know what my lube bill is, honey?
We really don't need to know that.
I thought the lube was for the other end.
Well, not when you're alone.
Another show draws to a close.